Cycling World Cup with
Electronic for Professionals, Google Sportsline.
Well, good afternoon to you, and reasonable good afternoon it is too. Murky weather, not too bad, not too much rain at the moment, and reasonably right about 12, 13 degrees as the ride set up this morning. In fact, it went as high as 14 degrees. You see the pack here together. We've had a breakaway group already on the road, heading in towards the run through Maastricht. A very interesting and complicated course, by the way, taking in lots of ups and downs round Maastricht. Much of the route also taking in where we had the World Championship in the past too. Alongside me, hot foot from Herne Hill, the bold Russell Williams, who put us in the picture just a minute. You can see now we've got a leading group, 3:25 away from the main peloton, and that breakaway group setting a pretty good pace since we set up this morning. Lots of intrigue earlier on, and welcome then to our coverage of the Amstel Gold race. It's the 35th edition, covering today 256 kilometres, that's just 160 miles in English money, and as they go around this particular course, all eyes will be on the leader in the World Cup, Eric Zabel, who wears the white jersey with the rainbow stripes down. He's leading at the moment on the World Cup, 190 points. Museo, 111 points behind him in second spot. Chamil in third spot with 110. There you can see the rainbow jersey of Oscar Freire, who's in his breakaway group. Russell, take us through who's in this group at the moment. Oscar Freire, to me, has done a fantastic job here. Who else is there?
Yeah, just before I say that, David, I should say a happy birthday to Robert Hunt, who's 23 today, the South African who rides for Lamprey. But in this group of 8 riders, we've got Mark Waters, the big domestic for Rabobank. We've got Ellie from Telecom. We've got Piron from Fassel Bortolo. We've got Eddie Mazzoni. We've got Ekimov, US Postal Service, the big domestic. We've got Konishev, so that's 2 riders from Fassel Bortolo, Barbero, and of course that world champion himself, Oscar Freire.
Well, pick up there, you can see the colours go. That's the Ekimov there in the blue and the white for the US Postal team. The light blue, so light white and light blue colours, that's Fassel Bortolo. There is the orange and white of the Rabobank team, and coming up to the world champion, Oscar Freire on the front at the moment. So Ekimov still trying hard, driving this one on as they go now both sides of the island. It's pretty typical, by the way. The trouble of the course round here at Maastricht is there's loads of little tiny roads, and you see here too the islands causing a few problems for the riders. They whiz round and come out the other side, fortunately all in one piece. Well, we had the World Championships here, apart from the Amstel Gold. Russell Williams alongside me. Remember Valkenburg, Russ, what was it, a couple of years ago, 1.5 years ago. In fact, we came down here. They go in towards the climb later on, up in towards Valkenburg, and a very steep and nasty climb it is too. Not a bad day for bike racing, and fortunately the rain stayed off. What happened yesterday, by the way, at Herne Hill, Russ, because you've hot-footed it to join me in the commentary box. How do you get on there?
We had a fabulous day yesterday at Herne Hill. I mean, the weather was wonderful, but the interesting thing was we had the Olympic sprint, Great Britain winning that 2-0. As we just see, looks like one of the telecom riders is just stretching out. The Olympic team won 2-0 against the French world champions, but also I think the most important thing is our team pursuit squad of Bradley Wiggins and Rob Hales. They performed really well. Bradley Wiggins was a real diamond, won the 10-minute pursuit, catching all the riders, and Rob Hales, with his new sponsor, Athletes won one of the races. It was a really good day out, but I must say one thing, actually. There's a young lady there.
No, you've got to embarrass me.
No, she thinks she's absolutely wonderful, Jan.
How young is she?
Oh, she's very young, and every Saturday she makes me a nice boiled egg sandwich, but she said, look, tell that David Duffield is fabulous, and can you give him a big kiss? But I can't actually kiss you because, if I remember rightly...
We're wearing headphones.
Well, no, after Milan-San Remo, when Zabel won, his lead-out man, Faganini, said to Zabel, you're not allowed to kiss men on the lips in Italy. So, I'll just shake your hands. And Jan, if you're listening, I know you love Eurosport.
Thank you, Russell, you embarrassed me. No, we're on the Coburg now, 12%. This is the one, by the way, to wreck many people in the past. I remember when Jan Raas popped out to win the World Championship on this particular course, but indeed Tyrrell, also in those days riding for the TI Rally team, was in all sorts of trouble. Jan Raas managed to pop out the pack to get the World Championship here. Jan Raas, of course, is the greatest record holder in the Amstel Gold. He's won 5 of them. Eddie Merckx and Kneitman and Yerman have won 2 each.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this break here, David, and people like Ellie, he doesn't have to do a lot because obviously Zabel is leading the World Cup. He's got maximum points. These are 2 riders who've got to work hard. Piron's got to work really hard for Konishev because obviously he's got a good sprint. In 3rd place there, the world champion. I mean, what he's having so far. 6 wins so far, including 2 stages of Tour of Aragon and finishing 8th in the general classement. And just look how easy he takes it. In fact, sorry, David, since the last pictures I've seen, I'm sure he's got new shorts there, because before, previously, the Mappa, those looked like all white shorts there, especially for the world champion.
Yes, they have. He used to have the ordinary Mappa short, but didn't quite suit his white jacket, did it? As white and rainbow jersey shirt. This is the long drag, by the way. Get over the top of this one. It sort of levels out, then it starts again. And the main pack still... I don't think any too much doubt about they might pull back that breakaway group. Depends who's determined to pull it back. Certainly Zabel for Telecom won't be too happy, or won't be too bothered, because he's got a man down in that leading break at the moment. Museo from the Mappa team, lying second on the World Cup at the moment, rides there with the same team as Oscar Freire on the far side. And Chamil from Lotto, well, he's in third spot, so perhaps his team might do some of the chasing to try and pull back this breakaway group.
Also, the interesting thing is US Postal are really strong by having, obviously, Ekimov up there. And also, it should be interesting today because they've got Tony Doyle in one of the cars as a special guest, because obviously he's the Nike connection with Europe. So he'll be in one of these cars, and he'll be a happy person, I suppose. So will Johan Brunel. Because obviously last year, sorry, David, last year, Lance Armstrong, second. He towed Bogard, what, for the last quite a few kilometres up. Was it 5 kilometres ago they crashed?
Yeah. Oh, that crash going into that finish when Zeberg came down, when the motorcycle got in the way, that's gone down in history, I think, as being one of those unfortunate circumstances. It wasn't the problem that I found out later on for the motorcycle cameraman. They were blocked trying to go a shortcut in towards the finish. At that particular time, I blew my top and thought it was the problem of the moto drive and the cameraman, but it wasn't. They couldn't go down the route which had been opened up, or should have been opened up for them, and so they were halted on the side of the road, and crash bang down went the riders, and that was it. So anyway, today we hope all goes well for the riders now. You see Valkenburg there. This is the main pack dropping down, and then they're going to chase after our breakaway group, still over a minute and a half away. Well, back to the main pack at the moment, Russell. It seems to me that the sun's come out. Jolly nice weather indeed for an Easter Sunday. Normally grotty condition. I think back in Great Britain they're having rather sloshy Silverstone this afternoon. Let's hope things stay right. And here we have that breakaway group coming through, and the sun is actually shining. This is amazing. I've been amazed also, Russ, on these opening early season class. This is the last of the World Cup, by the way, before we go on to the big tours. We don't come back until August for the next of the World Cup series. How much tremendously good weather we've had, because normally for the early season classic it absolutely precipitates down and chucks down with the hail and the snow, what have you. But these are ideal bike racing conditions as they come through here, through the finishing circuit. They're then going to go out again on a lap which will take them round back in toward the finish. So this is the first passage through the finish, and they've got something like about another 50-odd kilometres yet to go. There they go, the crowd here urging on the breakaway group you see on your screen at the moment, trying to hang on for grim death. But somehow I don't think they're going to stay away much longer, because the main pack behind, they're going over the river Mars at the moment, curling down, and the big bunch right behind here, still poised. So many people going through the feed, and this is obviously a time, by the way, we've had almost big problems, because Oscar Freire crashed in the feed in the Tour of Aragon the other week. He went straight in the back of the Festina car, smashed his crash out against the back window, smashed the window completely, got on his bike and still went on. So what a beautiful sight here. So coming out of Maastricht, they've come out now from the feed.
Yeah, just going back to the front group there, especially with Waters. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on him, because obviously he rides for Rabobank. Obviously he's a good rider, but he's mainly number one. He's a domestic to Bogard. There's a lot of pressure with being in Holland. I'm just surprised that he's working so hard. We go back to the chasing group, the bunch, and most of the work looks like on the front there is a grey jersey, a Farm Fritz. Say, talk about pressure. They're a Dutch team as well, new team director this year. They've really got to start to close this down. Good work being done there by US Postal and Telecom, just trying to slow it down as the rider's picking up food. There's Bogard there, big nice tee shining white. Going back through the group, this Kelme looks like Escartin. Early season for him, yeah, doesn't have to show any form, plenty of pink Telecoms. This is surprising, especially for Telecom, because Zabel at the start of the year didn't have this down as one of his races. But obviously because he's leading the World Cup, there's a lot more pressure. That means he has to ride well. And just thinking, later on in the year, he's got to go for the green jersey in the Tour de France, and there's Olympics and the World Road Race. So it's going to be a long, long year as we go back through the string there. some Jack and Jones riders.
Yeah, I was speaking to Zabel the other day, actually, Russ, and he said to me that it depended on what happens in this particular race, the Amstel Gold and the Les Baston-Liège, as to whether he's going to persist with trying to win the World Cup, because he knew full well that in Les Baston-Liège he couldn't actually, get up there with the best of them because it's a sort of a conky sort of course. He thought he might be okay today, and if he comes out with enough points in the bag, he might get. But let's say Bettini, who won on Les Baston-Liège last Sunday, wins this one as well, gets himself 200 points, closes the gap down on Zabel, then he might find himself in difficulty from then on, and he might have to change his plans. But provided Bettini doesn't quite make it, then Zabel, who is, I think, quite chirpy about this, and his team will give him all the support they can do. So let's keep our fingers crossed for the German rider, who started his season, by the way, training way back in like about November. And we're on the little short back lanes. This is typical, by the way, of the Amstel Gold, going across what are not much more than, I would say, kart tracks, but they're very little narrow roads indeed. Our breakaway group's still there.
Yeah, with our breakaway group, I just go back to the Telecom riders who are riding today. We've got Aldak, we've got Udo Boats, national champion, we've got Ellie who's in this front break, we've got Hepner, we've got that strong rider, as my friend Paul Mill, the postman, always tells me, Vinrikov always wears Oakley glasses, and we got Stefan Weiserman. I mean, I'm so impressed by that guy.
Well, the whole race forming and reforming. Let me take you back through the race today. We have, of the top 20 in the world, only, 6 riders not taking part. Olano, it's not his sort of race anyway. Ulrich, who is still a bit rotund, I think is the word. And Heras, who's not exactly, again, as a climber. He's 13th on the UCI list, is not riding today. Kamazind has got the flu, so he's not with us today either. Alex Zuller, again, not his sort of route, really. And Celestino. Other than that, we've got 14 riders from the top 20 in the world, including the world number 1, Jalabert Casagrande, second overall, Jalabert third as well. And these are riders who, right now on this single-day classic, have got to do something. We've only got one classic yet to come. That's going to be Henniger Turm on May the 1st. Then we go into Romandie, and then we go into the Giro d'Italia, and then on to the rest of the tours going in towards the back end of the year. So look at this narrow road here. Russ, you and I have, often had abuse hurled at British cycle racing for the goodness of the race. These are very narrow roads, aren't they? This is fairly typical, eh?
This is really typical of Holland and Belgium. But I must admit, today...
It's Holland, by the way, not Belgium.
Well, no, it's all similar, I know. But I must admit, it's such a beautiful day today. I mean, anybody would want to ride a bike today.
So... a good day then for the Amstel Gold, which has seen more than its fair share of bad weather in the past then, and let's see who's going to win this one. Over the years, the Dutch have won it no less than 16 times, by the way. And that's not snow in the background, by the way. 16 times. The Belgians won it 9 times. Swiss 3, France twice, Germany once, Australia once, Denmark once, and Italy once. Who's going to win today? Well, your guess is as good as mine, because I think somehow this lot will come together. I won't say we're going to come down to a sprint finish at the end of it all, but here now, coming back again into Maastricht, then 52 kilometres under belt, and the whole thing still splitting apart at the seams.
Yeah, I think it's Theo Van Vliet in the Farm Fritz car, because obviously a few weeks ago he was happy because they were up there winning classics and getting first and second, but today is so difficult. These 8 riders away and no Farm Fritz, and obviously all the sponsor being Dutch is going to be watching. And I say that, we've got Mark Waters still on the back there doing a good job. Pressure's on these Fassel Bartalo, Andre Preon.
Hey, I'm not going to talk to Van Vliet when he rode this race when Malcolm Elliott finished way back in 3rd spot in 1987, by the way, because Van Vliet was in the breakaway group, and they were worried about Elliott because they knew about his ability in sprinting classics, Nissan Classic and the Kellogg's and so on, and he finished 3rd, did Malcolm Elliott, that day, 2 seconds behind of Rooks, 31 behind Zoetemelk, and certainly Van Vliet was a bit worried about the man then. Yes, Russ?
Sorry, David, just really quick, so any of the young boys are watching out there, what was Eddie Mazzolo doing from Polte? Eating food all the time, just keep putting in the substances. Sorry, David.
Right, I'm just going back there all these years because I'm going back to Elliott from the ANC Halfords team. Surprised a lot of people by his 3rd place. And of course, Joe McLaughlin did a great race too when he finished 4th in the 96 Amstel Gold. Paul Watson that year took 6th in Flesh Falone. At long last, some of our bike riders beginning to show at the highest level, in addition to the great performance we've had from Chris Boardman in recent years. Now, David Miller out there thumping in with the rest of them too. Jez Hunt starting to come up on the sprints as well. All good signs, I think, for the British riders at this level. But keep fingers crossed. There's nobody out there at the moment that might win today, but let's see how it goes. Well, the main pack don't seem to be too bothered at the moment. There's quite a fair gap between them and what, 2, 4, 6, 8, about 5, 7 rides left at the moment on this, the Amstel Gold race. Welcome back. I'm David Duffield. Alongside me, Russell Williams. Watching with great interest here. At the back then is Ekimov, riding for US Postal Team, and his teammate Lance Armstrong last year finished second behind Bugart. Misaglia was in third spot. The year before, Yaman won the race. Den Bakker was second. He's riding today. Bartoli was third. Bartoli not riding with the problems he's had with his knee. So it could be maybe Bogart's not here. Look at this. Oscar Freire cuts down the inside. This man is irrepressible. Over the years, we've watched the world champion in the rainbow bands just, I would say, sulking, but they've all sorts of problems with their knees and what have you. And now with 39 kilometres to go, it looks like it's splitting up at the bit at the moment, but I'm very happy with the spirited performances of Oscar Freire as we now look at Eddie Mazzolini. It looks like it's cut down a bit now, Russ.
Yeah, it looks like he's just attacked off the front now, I believe, David. Remember, this guy was 19th in the Tour of Flanders earlier in the year, but this is good for a sprinter like someone like Blijverens who's riding. Also, Richard Baronk is riding for Polte, so that puts, there's no pressure on them. They can just sit back and let those guys get on with it. So we see number 42 there, the German champion, Udo Boltz there. One of the Once guys just stretching the legs. It's a big pack still here. Yeah, and all the Once jerseys too, round about Jalabert. Don't be too bothered at the moment. Jalabert being picked as probably a chap who might do it. There goes the world champion Oscar Freire chasing down. Who we got left at the moment, Ross, in this little group doing? Certainly Ekimov there and Freire. And we got Ellie there. Remember Ellie's had in the pink and white shorts. Yeah, back in '95 he was 6th in this race, and this year he's 4th in the Tour of Mercia. And we got the Polte riders in there too at the moment on this Musenberg. Yep. We look at in second place there. That's Konachev. He's going well this year, isn't he? New team. Yeah. Well, I was talking to Sean Kelly about him, and you know, he's a bit of a playboy in the times gone by, but suddenly he's come back good this year, and I think probably because this new team on the block at the moment, certainly he's got this team manager who knows what it's all about, and he seems to be able to get his riders in the right place at the right time. Can they get a victory today? Somehow, the way which the Dutch riders here, you see the orange and white colours of Rabobank, but he could come forward. This is one race they have to do well. The Rabobank Director Sportif, Jan Raas, he's on the race today, and I think we've got a few other people we've seen around the course so far, Russ, haven't we? There have been all sorts of odd people popping up from all over the place to watch what's been going on in the racing so far. Yeah, on the course was Kees Priem, former team manager TVM, and also an interesting spectator was the Dutch goalkeeper, PSV. Mind you, PSV have got a lot of money now because they just got 18 million, I believe, for their striker who's gone to Man United. But we won't talk about Man United because they went out, and the day before my team, Chelsea, went out. Sorry, European Cup. Back to cycle racing. Oh, by the way, today back in Great Britain, Walsall and West Brom are fighting it out. Looks like Walsall, West Brom will go down out of the first division. I've been a long time supporter of West Bromwich Albion. I think my brother is there today. I got my fingers crossed at the moment. Football today at West Brom as well. Manchester City playing Tranmere. Well, Phil Liggett's team there might get a thrashing today, and let's see what's going on. Yes, Russ. Yes, Dave. What's happened is this is exciting stuff because we've got 3 riders just gone out the back there. We've got Piron from Faso Botalo, but that doesn't matter because Konachev's in the front group. But Ekimos got dropped. That means US Post have got to start driving, and also Mark Walters has got dropped from Rabobank. So that means that the rest of the Rabobank guys have got to get on the front, start chasing. And all year they've been doing this. The brake's been going, and they've missed it. They've had to chase the whole time. So as we can see on Motor 2, these riders are going out the back. It's not a good day so far for the Dutch, as Mark Walters looks over his shoulder. Hey, if they don't win, they've got to ride in clogs next week, have they? Well, we're on the final circuit, by the way, now. The race taking it back in towards Maastricht. This race which ducks and dives around some very narrow lanes indeed, and taking the riders back in towards Maastricht. We do one little loop before we come in towards the finish as well. You've got the cameras picking up on the left-hand side, the breakaway group, the remnants on the right-hand side, and then the main pack coming after. Happy Easter all, by the way, and I hope you are enjoying yourselves wherever you might be at the moment. Let's not forget, by the way, whilst it might be time for bunnies, Easter egg and chickens, and my goodness, all over Europe I've seen, while I've been travelling in these last couple of weeks, the windows decorated with Easter bunnies, chickens and eggs. It is a religious festival, a religious occasion in fact, and whilst the sports stadiums might be crowded, let's hope the churches are too as well, because that's life or death as the case may be. So don't forget, when you're out there this weekend, there's more than just bike racing and sport which we have to remember today. Russ, looks like they might get off the back and sucked in by the main group on the right hand side. Yeah, possibly. I saw the Mappe team car come up, and Mappe have got a strong team Tong team this year with Museo, along with also Taffy's riding, so is Shinto, so is Wilfred Peters. But the interesting thing is, as we see the front of the group there with Farm Fritz, there's no room for Axel Merckx, who had a good in the Ardennes Classics. And his dad won this race back in 73 and 75. So on the front of the front group, on the bunch there, it's Farm Fritz and Lotto. They've really got to drive the closest gap down.
Hey, you're full of facts and figures, Ross. You've been doing your homework. Right, now then, let me tell you facts and figures, because you see the Farm Fritz on the front. Van Petegem coming into this race is lying 5th in the World Cup. He has 94 points. There's 100 at stake. If he could win this race, by the way, and get 100 points, he get 194. And if Eric Zabel gets zilch, nothing, and Museo gets nothing, and Chamil, etc. Van Petegem could take over the leader's jersey in the World Cup as we go in toward the recess when the big tour's coming up. But I think that's a tall order.
I don't know. Van Petegem's got good form, obviously, this year. He was second in Ghent-Wevelgem, second in Paris-Roubaix. Obviously, he just missed out on that to Museo. As the team car comes up again.
Hey, Mappy, got so many cards to play, haven't they? It's amazing how many events have been going. Hammer and tongs are shown, producing different winners all the time, different tactics. I mean, when we've got 39 rides, I suppose, Russ, you can do this, can't you?
Yeah, but sometimes it works in the opposite. I mean, you just think how good a rider Tom Steels is. He's had three wins this year, and he can't ride a big classic like this. That's the difficult thing when you're a big team and you've got 39 riders. But saying that, I think it's an excellent move for Charlie Vergalis to go to Mappe.
Right, and here looking back down here, the gap's coming down, the main bunch surely going to suck everything together for put the whole thing back together. We must have really nearly, what, 80, 90 rides still together, and 59 seconds is the gap back to that group. Going back to our program here, we've seen Oscar Freire going well. Talking the Oscars, Oscar Camerton didn't start with the flu, and Oscar seems to me a rather interesting name, because Oscar Boardman is the 5-year-old son of Chris Boardman, and of course there's a great Oscar Saville, the Duke himself. I don't know if you're tuned in, by the way, Oscar, in which case enjoy our program today. And of course my good friend Oscar Hopkins, the Beacon Road Cycling Club. It must be a great name.
Yeah, talking about Chris Boardman, I just want to say what a fantastic ride he did there.
Yeah.
But on top of that, I must say a big thank you to Peter Woodworth, because he actually gives me my Adidas shoes and a lovely red ones.
What intrigued me at the end of it all was that he was riding, Chris Boardman was, with one of these SRM devices on his chain wheel, which produced the number of watts he was absorbing. I think God knows how many thousand. I've got it here somewhere, Russ, if you chat on and watch what's going on the screen. Yep. How many calories he burnt off when he was actually riding on that particular occasion. Now, it's very calculated and very scientific, all this sport. I'm a bit worried about it. I mean, you're much more up to date than I am. I would have thought that if you have all this equipment, all these things, if it's not going well, you might sort of get off and kick the bike. But how scientific can you get today?
Well, the thing is, coming back to Chris, I mean, I just hope this is, well, they say this is going to be his last year, but I reckon after he wins a prologue in the Tour de France and holds the jersey for 4 or 5 days, he might decide to stay on. But if he does call it a day, I just hope that the BCF gets some funding to get him into our umbrella so he can teach the young riders a thing or two. As we picture there's Jalabert there.
Yeah, there he goes through in the yellow with the world's number 1. Still looking good. Well,
but he always looks good, though. Even at the end of, was it when they finished up the hill last week, the classic?
Yeah. Hey, this is when the BCF told me to tear up my membership, by the way. So many top riders have tried to help the federation when they've retired. And the greatest example was about 6 weeks ago when Sid Barras went to speak at the Pedal Club and said that the VC have got more coaches than Wallace Arnold, and he offered his facilities, and they sent him a long form to fill in saying, "What have you done?" And he threw the form in the bin. Now, this is the moment I'm sure the BCF will spit nails at me, but let's hope, by the way, Mr. BCF, if you listen to me right now, the money you have got from the Pru, we want to know as BCF members in the AGM, because it must show in the accounts how much was it, and we want to know it's going to be spent on bike racing, not on overheads, not on coaching, not on razzmatazz. We want bike races with the money which the Pru has put out. Sorry about that, Ross. I get carried away on these things.
No, just before we go to break, I just want to say one thing about the BCF. No, honestly, I think they're doing a good job, especially with the development squads, you know, putting money into the juniors. But there's one funny thing I found. I was looking on their website, and they have the different categories, elite, first and second. Roger Hammond won 2 races in Belgium this year, also won the Archer Grand Prix. If you look on their website, he is the best second category rider in the country. I'll leave it at that, as the gap is, what, 35 seconds. You can see back to the bunch.
Well done to Roger.
Well done to Roger, yeah. Now this is it. This is the fireworks are going now. Rabobank have got to get on the front and drive hard for for Bogart. And actually, these boys know the whole of the course, because on Thursday they did a 150-kilometre training ride, the last 150 kilometres of the course.
And they got Jan Raas, who director sportive of the Rabobank team, who had won this race 5 times. He won it in 77, 78, 79, 80, missed out 81 when Hino got it, and then in 82. He also was second in 1976, and in 83 he finished in 3rd spot when Phil Anderson, the Australian, the battling Aussie, won it that year. Looking back at what I call inverted commas English-speaking riders in this race, Sean Kelly won the race in 1980. Sorry, was 3rd in 1980. Stephen Rose was 2nd in 1982. Phil Anderson, 83, was 1st, and Malcolm Elliott for Great Britain in 87 was in 3rd spot, and the year before Joe McLaughlin had finished 4th and surprised a lot of people. Yes, right.
I'm just noticing there on the back there, Ellie, he's got a nice easy ride now, because he can just sit on these 4 guys, because Ellie is not really a sprinter, he's more of a climber, but he can just sit back and say, hey, I've got Zabel, I've got Vinrikov, I've got all my big boys back in that group. My team leader is ahead of the world, the World Cup. I can just sit there and just take it easy, and that's exactly what he's doing.
So Oscar Freire goes through the front at the moment, and this race dates back to 1966 when Stablinski won the race. Then the Dutch took over in fine form, then Hartog in 67, Stevens in 68, and so on through the years, when very much of the lowland riders have succeeded in winning this race. And it was Bogart last year who triumphed ahead of Lance Armstrong in 2nd spot, Mr. Glier, the Italian from Mappe, into 3rd spot. So that's the situation as it was. Are we going to see this group caught them out? Come on, do you think they should persist or sit up and go back, eh?
Well, I think they've got nothing to lose now. I mean, they've been out there for quite a long while now, and people, like I say, Eddie, can just sit there, can just roll through nice and gently, not put too much effort in. Just he follows the world champion through there. Dmitry Konachev, what a talented rider. But the gap is actually coming down.
Well, I'm not surprised, because let me take you through the field we've got today, by the way. Apart from Bogart winning this race in 99, we've got Dembaka riding today, 2nd in 98. Jon Mazeo, winner of this race in 94, 2nd in 92, 3rd in 96. He's riding today as well. Andre Taffy, we haven't seen much of him so far, 2nd in 97, also racing today. Giannetti, who won the race in 95, is on the start list today as well. Mr. Glier, 3rd in 99, in the race as well. And Lance Armstrong, 2nd in 99. So a lot of people know their way onto the podium in that chase group at the moment. Rabobank really putting the pressure on.
Yeah, definitely are, David. They've got 5 riders in the first 6 there, and they really want to close this gap down.
Well, they're going to run back up now and heading in towards Maastricht, that little final circuit. There's nothing really to disturb the rhythm from now on in, just a little bit of a climb a bit further down the road. I don't think any of these climbs are going to split them like we would have thought on the climb coming out of Valkenburg, but it's amazing how many people are still together. I'm very impressed, and I've been talking, Russell, with Sean Kelly et al. About how strong these riders are, and how it seems to me the form which they bring in the early season classics. We're seeing bigger fields, bigger number of riders in there. This seems to be much more scientific. How do you feel about it?
Well, first of all, none of these guys are as strong as Kelly was, mate. I mean, Kelly could eat these guys up and spit them out, I'm telling you. But now I just think, all the professionals now, they just work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They realise, it's early nights, looking after their food. As the gap's really starting to close down on the Rabobanks, they're really bringing this back. But I'll tell you, the interesting thing about this is if Rabobank close it down, they don't really have a sprinter. I know Zeberg has been out there during the year, but he's not really a top sprinter. People like the Polte sprinter. Lost his name now.
The Polte sprint at the moment.
Yeah.
You would like to sprinting from Polte?
Dutchman.
The Dutchman from Polte. Voskamp.
No. He's the workhorse for it. Lievens, yeah.
Right. Yes, because Voskam's a leader, man. Blyleven's in there. And of course, being from Holland, he could be with a shout. He's got the... they've now caught him, by the way, which is not surprising. So it could be then down to Voskamp. Bart Voskamp, finally riding for Polte, and put Blyleven's in with a shout at the end of it all. And again, if you look at the World Cup at the moment, Bettini, not his sort of course, by the way, tremendous ride in the Liège-Bastogne-Liège last week, is in this race too, looking for points in the World Cup. So it's going to be a very different race running in towards the finish. By the way, I can just say to all you good people here back at home, they think, it's a life old Riley being a sports commentator, travelling to and from Europe. But after I left Liège-Bastogne-Liège and dropped Sean Kelly off to the airport, I have to tell you this, I went then down to the docks, put my car on the ferry, off we went, and going in towards Dover, there was a lorry set on fire. 2 hours we were marooned out at sea, and then having got off the boat, eventually on the M4, there was an enormous crash. I got home at 3 o'clock in the morning Central European time after 10 hours of travelling. Also,
Yeah, but let me get this right. In January you were in Australia,
Yeah.
and in February you were in Malaysia. So hey, it goes round in circles.
Well, now then, so it's going on all the early season classics, coming to now live on Eurosport. In fact, I think we record this program and you're going to watch it later on. It's coverage of the Amstel Gold. This is the 35th of the series, 256 kilometres in all, as they now all together and heading in towards Maastricht, what might be at the end of it all a sprint finish, and that is quite unusual in this race. We'll have to wait and see. Well, a big pack of riders left in this World Cup race, the Amstel Gold race, dating back now to way back, what, 1960 something, when Stablinski won the first one. And this is the 35th edition of the race, by the way. And they're all together now. Just to put you in the picture, early on we had an early break. Russ, what exactly happened? Just let the people know, just tune in what exactly happened.
Yeah, an early break of 8 riders. They got away after 148 kilometres. We had Walters from Rabobank, we had Ellie from Telecom, Piron from Fassel Bortolo, we had Massoni from Polti, Ekimov, US Postal. We just saw those boys on the front as we had a quick shot there, Leo Van Boom. We had Konichev from Fassel Bortolo, Barbero from Team Lamprey, and hey, that boy Frere, the world champion. And those 8, at one time the gap was going up and up and up, and at 187 kilometres it was 3:30.
And they got sucked back in slowly but surely, yeah?
Yeah, they actually got caught, looking at my notes like you do. They got caught with 80 kilometres to go, after 80 kilometres in the lead, with 27 kilometres to go.
Well, we're now getting in toward the final back end of the race, something around about, I don't know, 23, 24 kilometres to go. 3 little climbs ahead, nothing really tenacious like we had coming up in towards Valkenburg, that nasty little climb of the Coburg, but it could sort 1 or 2 people out. This is a little climb I just said, you Saint-Simeon, 4.5%. Not a great deal of pressure on these riders, but when you consider going to race today 256 kilometres, 160 miles, the distance is going to affect them, I'm sure, and the speed of the race, travelling at around about 25 miles an hour. And bear in mind that many of these riders you're looking at now have ridden the classics you've been seeing on Eurosport during these past 2.5, 3 weeks or so. So there's quite a number of people out there with rather tired legs. One man I think looking to do well today has got to be Laurent Jalabert. He somehow made a right muck of things last Sunday in Les Baston-Liège when he was hanging back and letting Echeverria go for it. And after the race was over and done with, I was fascinated to listen to Sean Kelly and Laurent Fignon chatting away in French about Laurent Jalabert's tactics. Of course he had a man down the road, but Fignon was saying he should have gone because in fact that's what Merckx did. I don't know what you thought about that, Russ.
Well, I mean, hey, it's easy to say after the race, you know, you should have gone across the gap. You know, it's a bit like saying to Bettini, he should have, you know, waited for Merckx, and maybe, you know, Axel Merckx was trying hard to get across, maybe, you know, maybe it'd have blown. But hey, that's bike racing. As we got, hey, there's the man, the hard man, the Russian, or sorry, he's a Belgian now, Andre Chimil on the front, stringing it out.
Well, he's been packing his bag and travelling all over Europe from place to place, and now with a Belgian citizenship, actually he's still living out in, or actually living out in Italy now, but he qualified for being a Belgian citizen, winning that Tour of Flanders, obviously by Nats Whisker at the end of it all. And Oscar Freire marking him there. You can see Udo Boltz in that white jersey, the German national champion. Let's see if the cameras are going to pick up in here Eric Szabo, because Eric would like to stay in contention and keep that jersey going into the next round of the World Cup, which I think is a Henniger term the first time we come back in August, and then we go on to the San Sebastian Classic and Zurich. It'd be nice if Eric could keep that jersey. He's got to make sure that Bettini doesn't win this race today and that he gets no points at all. Looks like one of the Jack and Jones riders here at the moment, 121 on your screen, Tristan Hoffman. If you spot 122, by the way, what's Jesper Skibby staying? I've heard rumours he's saying that's it.
Oh yeah, before the race he announced that this would be his last Amstel Gold, but if I remember rightly, I think he's announced his retirement quite a few times.
More times than Frank Sinatra.
But I think it's better to announce it afterwards when your legs are hurting. You know, it's easy, you know, at the start of the race, isn't
it? I mean, legs are hurting. As we're watching now, who's on Saint-Simeon as they go through here. I'll just tell exactly how far it is towards the finish in just a moment. But talk about legs hurting. In fact, exactly here, 24 kilometres to go. I read in the back end of cycling, they have these sort of off-the-back pages when they interview people, and they interviewed Leslie West. And he's always been known, by the way, for saying that his legs were hurting. And he even came out in that little interview. I haven't got it with me at the moment, but it was something about the last thing. What's the last 4 words? He says, "My legs are hurting me." Also, he's always been like that. But here we are now. As I asked to see it on the cameras, they must be listening out there. The director sportive of the camera crew said, "Let's pick up Eric Szabo, looking very spirited indeed. This undulating course we got today." He said to me at Les Baston-Liège that he felt he could survive today. Just depended who won final age and who could win today. He's still in with a shout. He just needs to stay up there in the top 10 riders to keep that jersey on his shoulders going through the big tours yet to come. Big pack all grouped together here at the moment, and the big stars still in there. We've got Bettini, Mazzeo, Figueres in there. We've got Laurent Jalabert. We've got from the Telecom team Vunacroft, Weserman, Zabel. They all start out this morning. Andres Tamir, we're watching him on our screens as well. What about Francesco Casagrande? Not his sort of course today, but Weinstein's the champion in there with a shout. Giannetti won in 95 for the Vinicarola team, also in there with a shout. Marcel Wust is riding, by the way, for Festina, a damn good sprinter. He might pop out, as might be Salvatore Camasso. We haven't got the rundown on all these riders in this group, but a lot of people here looking for a chance to get a victory today.
Yeah, just going back to some of those riders you mentioned, especially Weserman. I mean, what a year he's had. He won a stage of the Tour Down Under. He was second in Hertvolk, 9th in Paris-Roubaix, 9th in Gent-Wevelgem. But what impressed me was he's just a pure team man, just working solely for people like Zabel. Maybe later in the year, if he rides a Tour, he'll be working for Jan Ullrich. But talking about Telecom as well, in the newspaper this week, they were talking about Cloden, the winner of Paris-Nice, and also a stage race in Spain. There's rumours that he might be possibly going to Mapei, because if you notice at the moment, Mapei have got riders from all over the world, but they don't have a German rider.
Well, it depends, Russell, on what happens now between... Oh, so now, they go, start ripping off here, because quickly touching on the case with Ullrich. Ullrich is, according to all the press reports, not very well at the moment, and the doubts are over which next race he's going to take part in, and whether he'll be fit enough to ride the Tour de France. I had him down as a possible winner of the Tour de France this year. I thought he was a lying doggo, but he's had virus troubles. He hasn't been able to come back as much as he would like to do, and so Jan Ullrich at the moment could have a question mark over. Now that if Cloden gets the support of the Telecom team, I hear what you're saying, Russell, but Mapei will be out there with a checkbook. But if Cloden goes into the Tour de France as the leader of the Telecom team, then it's going to be very different indeed, because he is German, he rides a German team, and I'm not sure that Mapei would have a big enough checkbook to take him out. Look at this big bunch going through now, and this bike racing this year has been full of intrigue. Things have been changing all the time. And by the way, very sorry to hear that Pantani looks like the judge is about to haul him into court to ask questions about when he had the crash in the Milan Turin, and they found a very high hematocrit level. His problems go on, and I think somehow that we're not likely to see him back at top level racing this year. It's a great disappointment, but there's a lot of other things out here. There's some tremendous racing, and you're watching here now, and Mapei yet again launch of a big attack. This is typical Mapei territory. One by one, they've let the Rabobank team do all the work, and now they're firing off the front. Telecom there, going to the front, looking after Zabel. What a race, Russ.
Yeah, it looks like Taffy, I think, there, David. That's the big frame of Taffy.
No, not Taffy.
Yeah, it's got that look about him.
It's ever Taffy, isn't it? This man is irrepressible, and what a great guy he was when he came to the Dave Rayner Memorial Fund dinner last October. I keep harping on about him. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen, but this man is a real one-off, and I love this sort of bike ride. Here he goes now. You watch him come on the left-hand side. They'll look back here. They're easing back, and they're doing the teamwork, and Taffy says, right, you're looking, I'll go the other way. Goodbye. Thank you. Goodbye. But he's travelling at about 45 miles an hour. Taffy, full bore, down the road he goes.
Yeah, fully committed then. Just a little look just underneath his legs. You see if anyone wants to close the gap. No one starts to close. Just puts his head down as we go into 20 kilometres to go.
Hey, this comes down to a sprint finish, Russ. We're going to sort of start picking out. In fact, Zabel could be in with a shout then, couldn't he? It's going to be quite a fascinating finish at the moment if it all stays together on the run-in, because Zabel popped out in the Milan-San Remo, taking the first spot. That was his third victory in the Milan-San Remo. He missed out 2 years ago when Chamil took a long one, and Zabel faded and just didn't quite get the victory. But this is going to be real, I think, playing right in. And I'm sure we're going to see the Telecom team try to hold everything back so that Zabel can keep that leader's jersey in the World Cup going in towards the recess for the summit coming up yet. Here we go. What do I see? There we go. Off we go. It's the Telecom nailing down the attack here. This is Vunacroft, by the way, who normally is very good in the mountain. He looks like he's playing a team rider's part here, closing it down for Zabel. Let's see what happens when he goes up there. Even off on the front now for Farm Freights. Segler going through. Very interesting little group of riders on the front. No cohesive effort. They're going to nail that one down.
Notice we've still got the postal riders up there, so obviously Lance must be feeling quite comfortable.
Yeah, he's taking a slow start to his season, isn't he? He's been nipping off to America for that charity ride he went on just about a couple of weeks after on the, the Basque Country or Tour. He sort of knocked on the head and went away. I still think he's in with a shout this year for the Tour de France. He looks very good. He's got a strong team around about him, but early days yet. Let's see what happens in the Tourometer, which we've got on Eurosport coming up. We're then going to go to Tour of Italy, which are the top contenders for Tour de France won't actually always ride, and then through Switzerland in towards the back end. It looks like Den Bakker coming through here, and as always being pegged down by Figueres, third in 96. Den Bakker just off the front at the moment. It seems to me, Russ, that it's every man for himself. We've seen one or two sort of closing downs at Abington. We've seen the pink and white jersey of Telecom start to close it down. Vinnie Calderó starting to come through in the Farm Priest, but a lot of one-off riders nipping off down the road. Yeah, everyone's still trying to make a little move, trying to get a little gap, as you say. Vinnie Calderó. Ginetti did a good ride in Liège, Bastogne-Liège. Casagrande as well. We're going back to the US Postal Service again. You know, when you think about it, it's only 10 weeks to the Tour, and obviously for US Post that's the most important thing. This is one of the climbs that the Rabobank team took when they did their 150-kilometre training session on Thursday, and Bogard said this is the place where he attacked last year with Lance Armstrong. So what he tried to do on Thursday, he tried to ride as if, you know, as you're racing on the 14 up here. So this is what these boys are going to be riding. Big ring, 53 and the 14. I was fascinated reading about the Paris-Roubaix, how some of the riders would go behind the team car, going to Allenberg Forest, and the team car would peel up and they go straight in. Great road, and it looks like Van Petegem here begin to go for the Farm Freaks team. Looking back over his shoulder, here's Van Petegem, start to pull, put on the pressure now. Van Petegem easing himself off the front. This is Bettini, looks like he's trying to come across there. One of the Telecom riders started to get in trouble there. He's got to close the gap down if he's working for Zabel. Van Petegem's committed, little look under the arm there, Sios is getting across, but you can see the big gear, you can see he's put the pressure on. Bettini is the danger man then in this race then, fourth on the World Cup at the moment, having won the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, 100 points he's got in his bag. Van Petegem fifth overall, 94 points, and Zabel must now be hoping his team could pull this lot back. This is the one, the long drag up here. Bettini closing down in second spot on Van Petegem in the black pants then, and he can't quite make it, can't quite close that gap down. And I think somehow they may come back together again as Bogart comes through. Is that Bogart, Ross? Yeah, this is Bogart. You can always tell by his nice big white shiny teeth, mouth open. It looks like Bettini's having trouble, but it looks like that's Rebellion as well. You can tell the way he rode so smoothly. So the race is delicately poised now. Weinsteins goes through as well, and plenty of support coming up from the Rabobank team as the Berg goes across as well. A lot of action yet to come on Eurosport. Don't go away. Well, coming in towards the back end now of the Amstel Gold race, the World Cup round here, which will take us in towards the summer recess, if I can use that word. There's still no decisive move. It's splitting at the front at the moment as they come over the top of the Petersburg, and the field stringing along here. Hell of a lot of riders still in contention, probably around about 80 men there. But it looks like we've got a bit of break going here because Van Petegem on the front, start this one going. Rebellion just behind him, in there too, Bogart and Bettini. Can't see Eric Zabel at the moment. Can you spot any other riders in at the moment, Russ? No, just coming through there in the Pullman's ride, that's Henrik van Dijk. Remember he won a stage in the Tour of Mercia earlier in the year. That's Weinsteins there. He's been going well this year. Hasn't quite cracked the big one yet, I shouldn't say that. But also, sorry David, number 8 there is, that's the Berg, who was 7th here in 99. Remember he had that crash with the motorbike. Hey, it looks like he got away, Russ. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. This is quite a split now suddenly. That climb, which you said they've been out there training on the course, seems to have been decisive. Is there enough gap here? What do you think? Well, I mean, the good thing is, I mean, it's really turned around for Rabobank. I mean, they started with having one rider in the break, Waters, and then he got dropped, and there was a big panic stations, and they were chasing like anything. And now all of a sudden, we're coming down to coming close to the finish, and we've got 2 Rabobanks, and we've got the team leader in Bogart up here, and we've got a good sprinter in the team in Zeberg. Well, the team which must have to chase, sure, has got to be Telecom, because Bettini in this group now, that's the rundown on the rise in that breakaway group. Bettini at the moment going into the race today, won the Liège-Bastogne-Liège. He has 100 points at the moment. I don't know if he can win the sprint, but Zabel's got the leader's jersey in the World Cup at the moment. He's marooned back there. Bettini this morning, 4th overall, 100 points. If he gets this one, that's another 100. He can sprint too. That's a fellow now coming through in 2nd spot. So the chase group behind here, I'm surely that the Telecom boys have got to start to work. What do you think, Russ?
Yeah, it's interesting to see Jack and Jones up there. They're really shine. Obviously, they're going for the wild card in the Tour de France. But going back to the front group, it's not, even if they do stay away, it wouldn't be a piece of cake for Zeberg or Bogart, because people like Van Petegem can really sprint well. Also, Venstein's is a good sprinter, so we've got a good shot there. Some of the France de Jour riders. This group is really coming down now.
I still say Bettini's a bit quick, by the way. He's, he can go sharply the way he thumped out on Sunday Les Baston-Liège there for France de Jour at the moment.
Yeah, sorry, David, the team cars are going up to the gap. I thought it might be 30 seconds, but it's only 15. That's surprising for the team cars to be coming up. Maybe they're going to the front of the group as we see the Telecom riders there. There's no panic in the faces there, still riding comfortably. There's one of Jack and Jones really gritting his teeth. It's really starting to hurt. There's the Postal.
Perhaps they're just saying that if Bettini doesn't get in the top spot, then back into second spot 70 points, back into third spot is 50 points, and so with Zabel with 190 points, it could be, unless Bettini wins the race today, then Zabel could still keep that jersey. Perhaps they're just going to wait and see what happens. Bettini technically I don't think should win the sprint, but you never know. He could clop up towards the end. There's a couple of little sort of drags between now and the end of the race, but I wonder what his legs are like toward the back end after his tremendous performance on Sunday.
Yeah, the thing is, though, he's all on his own. He's isolated. Let's say we've got two rubber banks here, and I'm sure that Zeberg will give up anything for Bogarts to win it. But mind you, Bogarts was quoted saying the most important thing today, because he only feels like he's got 90% form after his crash, is that a rubber banked rider wins.
Well, it's been a Dutch benefit over the years. Let's see if it's going to be exactly the same thing this year round. They look quite comfortable though, and don't they? Sitting, hello. Come on, Ross, can you do things like that at bike race at this level?
I'm telling you, that guy looked really comfortably. But Henrik van Dijk, he rides for the same team as Scott Sunderland. I know Scott had that nasty accident here 2 years ago, and I know he's been ill during the season. As we go back to the slow-mo here, as a little wave, how comfortable does he look?
Well, Scott's coming back, isn't in the form. He had terrible problems with his head and after that accident, and understanding now he's on his way back, and thank goodness for that. He's out there, or he started out in the back of the main pack at the moment, but still his teammates up in the lead. Be happy with that. But
he started off for the season well. I think he was second in the Australian National Championships.
Yep, well, he's going well at the moment, Scott, and we wish him well in his recovery. And a shot of the main pack, getting closer to our breakaway group. They could all come back together, and so the brinkmanship being paid, a game of poker almost by the Telecom team, could still put Eric Zabel in with a shout to keep that jersey. They close that one down.
I think you're right, David. Telecom on the front. When they've got people like Vinrikov, they've got Weisemans, they've got Udo Bolts.
And they're working hard. Long last they come swinging into this one. I'm not going to get a German victor, by the way. Looking back down the list here of the German victors, and I can't see one at the moment. As you may slap my wrist and say yes, there was. Yes, it was Ludwig, Oliver Ludwig, who in fact now works as a PR man for the Telecom team. It was in 1992 Oliver Ludwig won this race ahead of guess who? Museo was second, and guess who was third? Konyshev. So we've still got the old soldiers, excuse the word, in there all these years later, 8 years later. Museo second in 92, Konyshev third in 92, and Konyshev and Museo riding, but Oliver Ludwig now gone in to be the public relations man for the Telecom team, and keep his fingers crossed that maybe if they don't win the race today, they'll still keep the jersey.
Yeah, in the yellow there looks like one of the Mercanturno riders trying to get across. I was just wondering, David, just going to the front breakdown, noticed that Bogarts was on the back. Maybe he was waiting till the gap gets a little bit close, and then he's going to try to get away, because he's not really a sprinter. I mean, last year, I don't want to take anything away from him, but he did sit on Lance Armstrong until about 15-20 metres to go and pop by. I know that's winning. I know he couldn't do anything else. But
that's bike racing.
That's bike racing.
Well, he won last year at the age of 26. Looking down the list of victors we've got in this race over the years, Joop Sullivan, the oldest winner in 1987. He's 40 years of age then, and quite a lot of the over 30s have done well in this race. Yama was 32 when he won in 98, and Bjorn Ries in 97 was 33. I mention this about age because the interesting thing about cycle racing, a lot of it is down to stamina, understanding, and ability to stay in there. Some young riders have also done well in this race, but generally speaking, speaking, in these big single-day classics, it's all about judgment. The younger riders, Kneisman won when he's 23 years of age. Jacques Hanegraaff, Ali Stavens, George Pintons, Walter Bright, they're all 23. But really, some of the riders in this race, they have to know when to go. It's down to judgment. Right now, come on, Russ, take us through this. Look at the echelons coming now. What would you do? You jump across, sit on the wheels? What's going to happen?
Well, first of all, that Mercanturno guy really buried himself to get across that front group. And the thing to do is after that, once the gaps appear, there's no point in chasing on your own unless you think you're going to get across. You might as well just move over to the side of the road and, as you say, get the echelon going. That's what the professionals do. But here we go back to the action. The Mercanturno guys, you can see just off the back of the group, he's on the left-hand side of the road. And I'm telling you what, he's down in that 12 and 13. And all he's trying to think of now in the last few metres is to get across onto that wheel. And maybe, if possible, with his last little breath, have a little drink. But looks like trouble here. Someone punching on the left-hand side. Looks like one of the Faso Bertalo riders.
Well, by the way, Russell, this is sackcloth and ashes time, because I was describing echelons the other day, and when I got back, I got lots of facts in telephone calls from my friends, including Doug Sellers, that I got the wind coming the wrong direction. I was, of course, looking at it from left to right rather than right to left, and I was looking at the screen, I got all back to front, so please forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, but it's to do with the wind. And not when you've had plenty of radishes. It blows from one side to the other, and they get in echelons.
Hey, I wouldn't worry about that. As I said before, Jan, who makes the sandwiches at Herney on a Saturday, thinks you're fabulous. Thinks you are Eurosport. That's it. End of story.
I just enjoy this, Ross, and thanks for joining me today. And I'm glad that things went well with you at Herne Hill on Friday, and that the sunshine was out there for occasion. We go across the Meuse there, heading back in towards Maastricht. We've got this loop ahead of us now, and nothing much to split the field, I don't think, except the sheer drama of 256 kilometres in all. That's 160 miles in the saddle, averaging some 25 miles an hour overall. And ahead of them lies the opportunity of winning one of the great classics, and in particular the opportunity for Zabel to keep his World Cup jersey going into the tours yet to come. A lot of blokes still in contention, and throughout this year I've been quite obviously surprised. Certainly Sean Kelly's spoken about it. Russ, you've been watching the programmes as well. The number of riders now who stay there, because the season seems to be split in several different parts, and people watching here now have been training since last October.
Hey, if you want to win some of these bike races, as I said before, you've got to train. The whole programme is really 12 months of the year. You've really got to think about what you're doing. But to win these classics in early season, I mean, obviously the classic season goes from March. This is the last one. You've got to really start training in November. And people like Zabel and the Telecom boys, before the Christmas, they go off to America, and then they might...
And Australia. I met Baseman out there sunning himself. Well, he wasn't, his wife was, a little kiddie. They were out there when I went up the Tour Down Under. They've been out there since before Christmas, and the whole thing is changing at the moment, and of course it's all down to publicity, to commercialism, to getting your team on the box, and these lads really have now dedicated themselves to an entirely different life from years gone by, when the riders would just start out and get themselves fit in January, February, March by actually racing. They have to come into these things really race fit. That's why you're watching on Eurosport something like 25 mile an hour average speed when these riders are doing between 150 and 170 miles in these great classic races. The gap's coming now, the split's happening, the grovel's beginning to happen, because everybody now is gritting their teeth and trying to close the gaps down as we go across yet again over the Meuse. And here you can see with the way in which they take the big barges up and down the river. They've got the barriers there to allow the boats to come through, but right now who's going to put the barrier down? Again, Telecom on the attack. Well, they really are putting things in. This is Weseman, Stefan Weseman, and he had free rein, by the way, in the Paris-Roubaix. He rode extremely well. They fire him off, Ross, as the sort of I would say hopeful. He's off he goes down the road, and the rest just sit back, and the rest then they have to chase him down. Tremendous how they fire him off, and by God, this fellow's got a lot of guts.
Yeah, like I said earlier in the viewing, I mean, this guy's really impressed me this year. I mean, he's a pure man, purely for the team, just thinking of people like Zabel, or in this case, possibly Vinrikov. Just work the whole time, and all he's thinking of now is if he can get that gap, he can stay away. If he gets caught, people like Zabel just sitting on. But you said back to the amateurs, you know, like turning professional. I read about a new amateur, Matt DeCanio from USA, from Virginia. He's actually got a trial this year with Linda McCartney team, as we go back to the action here.
And as we see him zoom off down the road, and this, as I say, is the last of the World Cup before we go into the tours. We're going to be covering the Tourometer, where the Linda McCartney team will be riding. They're going on to ride the Tour of Italy as well, which again will be on Eurosport. You're watching here the gap opening up, because Rabobank now are absolutely brassed off for the work they've been doing, that nobody would close down Weseman when he went off down the road. So he's now opened up quite a little gap, and the chase is on to try and pull him back. So I say, now next event on Eurosport will be the Tour Romandie starting on Tuesday, and we're looking forward, as we hear Zabel on our screen now, to the performance of the Nibali squad. There they are, and Zabel chasing down and just on the wheel of Oscar Freire, who's really done justice to the World Championship bands around his jersey there. He's still perky here, and he could be in with a shout to win this race, and my goodness, if we find the World Champion popping out like a cork for a bottle at the end of the race today and getting the victory, that will be something which we'll talk about a long time. He's had a most successful start this season, and I think the last time he rode he finished 46th. He could do better this time round. Well, this could be a decisive break here, but a lot of people still hammering on behind our threesome here. Just split the field. Weserman started it all. He's been joined by a couple of riders now. We've seen this before on a run-in when a lot of the top brass are watching each other to see if they can close the thing down. And again, with the Mappe team playing all the cards here, Wilfried Peters going off down the road there, catching up with Weserman. One of the riders. Did you idea the other one, Russ?
No, I couldn't see that number, but coming back to Wilfried Peters, he's another one. I think he's 35, 36 years of age. He's a real lieutenant to Johan Mazzeo. Chances like this, he knows he can take off and go away trying to get the gap, and if not, hopefully Oscar Freire, the world champion, can do the damage. Because remember, I think it was just last week in the Tour of Aragon he won 2 stages, but he worked off the US Postal Service's train. There had 3 riders up there, plus Marcel Wust was trying to win, and who popped through and got it? Oscar Freire. We go back to the group here, on the back there, there's Vensteins, another one to watch out for.
And there's the flat bit running alongside the Meuse. We're heading in towards Maastricht, another particularly, I don't know, delightful part of the world, again with the cement factories churning out their cement, putting it down the barges and shoving it out down the Meuse, heading in then towards Maastricht. Some 120,000 people live in here. Nice part of the world championship we had here just not last year, before, when Danny Nelson, who's the commentator for the Dutch side of Eurosport, opened up the proceedings with a very nice little speech in the market square, and then later on my car broke down. So Maastricht holds some strange memories for us all. But right now then, who's going to win this one then? Russ.
It holds good memories to me, because I remember riding the professional 6-day track there, 150-metre track, one of Rob Webb's tracks, and I wouldn't have got through it if it wasn't for Tony Doyle. Every day he held my hand and told me exactly what to do.
Now that's on the track. What about a sprint today? How do you rate this man, Zabel, on your screen now against Oscar Freire?
Well, the thing is Zabel looks so comfortable there, but as I say, Freire's got the good form. Last week he got the 2-stage wins, but Telecom have got a good, strong team there.
And what about Van Petegem here at the back, just hovering behind?
I couldn't see too many other Farm Fritz riders actually to lead him out. As on the front of this group here, this is Vinrikov, just fully committed now to Zabel. All he wants to do is get him right to the finish.
And there's still 3 men down the road with Wilfried Peters charging along. Weserman, interesting there, because Weserman went down the road, and now they're starting to jump all over the place, and rocking off down, that's Massimiliano Lelli for the Cofidis team, chasing after one of the riders from the Lotto team. Could have been Verbrugge, who's been fairly chirpy toward the back end of this season, and one or two still trying to close the gap down. Looks like one of the riders from the Festina team trying to go across the gap at the moment, but it's a lonely old way to go. The best thing to do is to sit up, wait for somebody to come through, but you never know. Keep on going. You might just about make it through towards the back end, as he's still struggling to stay in there, and that's Klinger, Mikkel Klinger, the Swiss rider for Festina, narrowing down the field a bit here. Still a chance then on Petersburg for that threesome down the road to stay away, but somehow I doubt it. Telecom still trying on the front. Just this little up and down, close towards the finish, making life difficult. Then we come in that running through Maastricht. We have those little few kilometres of circuit round the town, back in the game.
You notice the way he looked over his shoulder there, David? That's all Vinrikov wants to do, is keep this little group away. 25-second gap there.
What do you think, Russ?
Oh, as you say, I am a sportive man, but I wouldn't like to put any money on it. Give me the last 300-400 metres and I'll make a decision.
Coward.
That's after I talk to team directors in their car to find out how the riders feel.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. We normally phone up and take... Look at the yellow hat back there. Casagrandi's still in with the shake of this one, but he's normally a climber who likes an uphill finish. We're going to flatter part towards the back end, so I can't see that he's going to do much then. And just toward the back for the US Post.
That's Patrick Jonker there.
Yeah, having a good season, by the way. He seems to have benefited from changing over to the to US Postal Team. He entered the doldrums for a small while, and but now I'm not quite sure whether he's Australian or whether he's
down as Australian because this year he wants to ride the Olympics.
Fact, yeah, it says Netherlands here on our programme.
No, he's Australian. I think he's a good guy because when I went to the Tour de France, I went up to introduce myself and he said, "Hey Russell, we used to race
Rebellin,
together."
surely.
Yeah, you're right there. That's David Rebellin. He's got the gap.
Well, the wind's not too strong today, and a one man on his own might be able to, on this twisty, narrow roads, stay away, and he certainly seems to have done the right thing there to hammer off and strip the thing to pieces as Vernercroft comes straight back and out the back of the chase group.
I'm sure we've got about 5, possibly 6 kilometres to go. Rebellin making a move, but as you saw Vernercroft going out the back, but he's done his work. He's tried to keep it together for Zabel. As we go back to the front man now, Rebellin, he's just got to get it down on that 12 and 11. Get that back arched. Don't look round and just really put it on.
Well, he rode great in the Les Bastogne-Liège, finishing in 3rd spot. He was away with Bettini and Etcheverry coming up towards the back end of that race, and just failed to make the cut at the end of it all, and now he's gone off on his own. Not normal tactics for him, and I think that just shows how fit and strong he feels at the moment.
He was also 4th in Flèche Wallonne as well, I believe.
Yeah, in good form. I actually had him tipped last week for Liège, him and Casagrande, and he finished in 3rd spot, and let's see what he's going to do today. But surely no, they're going to come back to him. Got to be.
Looks like we've got a bit of rain there on the road, but as you say, you've got one thin line strung out behind him, as I say. We haven't seen any markers yet. I'm sure we're down to about 3 kilometres ago. Don't look over your shoulder now. The string's coming after you. Don't look back. And
interesting too, Russ. Look at the orange and whites, the Rabobank. They did a lot of work earlier on. They seem to have gone back in now. They're either a bit stuffed or they're just letting someone else do the work. Oscar Freyr's still there. There's Pettigum in the grey and the black pants.
There's not many people left in that group, as you say. Vensteins is still there.
And Rebellin trying to get this one on his own. There's been a sterling performance to hang on for this one. He's really getting what we call twiddlebonk here, the speed at which his legs are going. He must be doing the thick end about 45 miles an hour down here, and the crowd on both sides. Remember, this is Saturday, it's Easter, and welcome to our coverage. You just joined us on Eurosport of the Amstel Gold race alongside with Russell Williams. Pleased to be back in the commentary chair after his thrashing. No, sorry, you did quite reasonably well at Herne Hill on Friday, and I think the whole thing went rather well. And congratulations to the organisation. Russ, they must have been breathing a sigh of relief then in Herne Hill. And now let's go and see when we come down to the sprint who's going to get this one. Surely going to get him, eh?
I'm hearing on the radio there's 17 people in that break there. Also, we've got people like Laurent Duffield, but mind you, Laurent Duffield not a real sprinter.
1k to go, coming through here, and still Rebellin hanging out for grim death. They've done that loop round, and Rebellin surely cannot hold against. Who else have we got in that 17-man group at the moment, Russ?
Well, we've got your favourite, we've got Zabel, and plus he's got a teammate there to help him. We've got people like, we've got Bogard, we've got Vensteins. We've still got that Palmund's rider, he's still hanging on in there. Oscar Freyr's there, like.
Well, there they are, stringing around. They can see Rebellin. They're going to start pulling back now. The crowd on the side of the road here applauding this thing. The Dutch love their cycle racing. They're hoping again that Bogart may get this victory. They've been so strong over the years, the Dutch, in this particular race. Bogart won it last year. Before that, the previous Dutch winner was Frans Martin in '91. But now Rebellin coming through here. And so Rebellin hanging on here. Oscar Freyr coming at him. Rebellin gritting his teeth. Rebellin still on the front. Rebellin still there going through, and Oscar Freyr closing the gap down on the left-hand side. He eases and goes back into the pack then. Still, it's Zabel on the front though. Zabel starts to come through, and Zabel looks like he's going to get out. He does! Zabel gets that one ahead, I think, of Bogart. And that was great then, because that will put him in with another 100 points. And Zabel, who was a bit doubtful about keeping that World Cup jersey through into the tours yet to come, has now pulled off a significant victory, having gone over those 30 climbs he had today. He bided his time. It looked like Rebellin might get it. It looked like the others might swallow him up, and who was going to get it? It was Zabel in the end. That was a superb sprint. I'm sure we're going to go slow-mo in the moment then, but Russ, that was well timed. Let's hear you go.
Yeah, we go back to the action. Obviously you can see Zabel on the front, but I feel so sorry for Rebellin getting caught, you know, just about 100 metres to go. And I tell you what, a not happy team is going to be Rabobank, because it looked like they got second and third. We go back to the action here. It looks like Bogart is on the wheel of Zabel, but there's no way he's going to come over him. And it's no good getting second and third, because I think Seberg is here in third place as we look at the line. But look, oh, on the right, that's a good position. Looks like 5th place for that Van Dijk from Palmund. Some useful UCI points. 4th place. is Weinsteins from Villa-Colorado.
Well then, so Eric Zabel taking that victory, giving himself another 100 points, now gets 290 in the World Cup. A super well-timed sprint from him. Bogart coming in behind. Well, he's not interested so much in the World Cup, but the Rabank team worked hard today. The best they could do was second and third, and then Weinstein's coming to fourth, and then Van Dijk just behind that, and one of Jack and Jones boys on the far side, Van Petegem in there, the world champion just coming across there, still in the top 10. Good ride from him. Well, there's long string of riders coming in here towards the finish of the Amstel Gold race. What a tremendous race we've had so far. Looking back then at Rebellin, who tried manfully to try and get the success. He went off on his own coming in toward the back end, and it might have happened really. He'd still got a bit of a lead when suddenly the big what was left of the main pack came throwing in towards him, and a good lead out there. You could see the pink and white colours of a Telecom rider pulling the string along, because Eric Zabel coming into this race today, leader in the World Cup with 190 points, desperately needed to stay close to Bettini, who was also in that breakaway group. They start this morning 100 points. Had Bettini got it and Zabel got nothing, then he would have been out of it, and that was it. So the presentation now for the winner of the stage, or the winner of the race today, but they've actually got the, oh, we're looking back, we're going zipping back and forth, they're getting action motion, slow replay, and this is where Rebellin's legs died 1,000 deaths, and Bettini began to go well. Interesting to see Bettini, by the way, with Oscar Freire on his wheel then. Hmm?
Yeah, because I think what happens is if we go back to things like Milan-San Remo, where you had people like Johan Mezeo up there and nobody helped Oscar Freire, and he ended up getting third place, but there's no stopping this man, Zabel. Just look at that. He makes it look so easy. So up there in his nice pink jersey, nice trophy, must be a happy man.
Well, yes, we've got him up there on the rostrum. A very happy Eric Zabel indeed. Well, I had the good chance to talk to him after the Milan-San Remo, spent time with him out in Australia in the Tour Down Under, and after we stayed in the same hotel that night after Milan-San Remo, he was very pleased, and I talked to him about the jersey. He wasn't certain, nor was he when I spoke to him last weekend at Les Bassonets. He's blowing now, but he's got it, and great success too, or nearly great success for Rabobank, eh? Nearly made it.
Nearly, but he won't be happy with that, with second and third place. But going back to Zabel, that makes 14 wins this year for Telecom, and I believe that's a 9th win for Zabel. But what a way. Nice big classic, 2 classics.
And of course, lying ahead of him is the green jersey yet again in the Tour de France. What will be his 5th green jersey in the Tour de France if he gets it? Can he keep the World Cup jersey through? We come back in August with the first round of the World Cup after the big tours, and that's going to be the race in Hamburg. So at least you keep that jersey with then. So the whole of Germany and Telecom in particular, we're very pleased to see him in Hamburg, I'm sure, wearing that World Cup leaders jersey, which he's kept right since day one on the Milan-San Remo.
Yeah, I think actually with Telecom they're going to have a nice problem in the Tour, because they've got Zabel who wants to go for the green, they've got Jan Ullrich who's going to come back to form, mark my words, and possibly get up there and win. But mind you, in my heart I'd like to see Lance Armstrong win, but also their new man if he rides Cloden. So it's a really interesting thing for...
and Vinokurov can go well.
Vinokurov, yes, so it could be an interesting situation.
Well, there we are. Tour Romadin will be coming up on our screens on May the 3rd to May the 7th. We look forward to your company on that occasion. Stay with us. There's tennis coming up after this programme. And I'm David Duffield. Alongside me is Russell Williams. Thanks for your company this afternoon. And more action on Eurosport on your screens. More cycling, I say, the first week in May. Until then, it's time to say from us here in the commentary point, thanks for your company today. We've enjoyed it. I hope you have too. And congratulations then to Eric Zabel keeping the World Cup jersey through until we come back for the next round in August. Until then, until next week, it's time to say bye-bye. Well, good afternoon to you all, and welcome to our coverage of the Tour of Romandy. But before we get on with the action of the racing, we're going to be looking back at what's been happening running up to this very important race, because the Tour of Romandy, this is going to be the 54th, is a prologue almost for the Tour of Italy, which we're covering for you live next week. So we're going to look back now to see how the build-up has been taking place in these last few days before we come on to the live program, which for those you're watching start within 1 hour's time. If those are going to watch this recorded sometime later, you aren't going to get it. But we're back later on. Meantime, let's look now at the Tuscany Tour, where a couple of riders have gone away. Russian Ivanov of the Amica Chips and Sergio Barbero of Lamprey, and they're being chased down now by a group of 7 riders in hot pursuit. Well, a rather undulating course, this particular Tour of the Tuscany. They had 5 legs in and around Arezzo and 5 climbs of the hill of Scapitone. The question was, could these 2 riders stay away, because that 7 behind were closing the gap, and concern being shown there. The 2 leaders began to worry what was going on. The Lamprey rider in front there, Barbero, leading out, looking back then to Ivanov, when they set themselves for the sprint, and the main bunch were coming up very fast indeed. Could they stay there? We've seen it before. Nobody wants to lead, and suddenly the group comes behind, and suddenly he decides it's time to go. Then the Amica Chips rider, Ivanov, moves up. It's a dummy run. Then he goes again. And coming down the finishing straight, he's got daylight between himself and Barbero. Barbero closes the gap down. Can he hang on? Looking back. Just survives then across the line, taking his victory in the Tuscany Tour, the Amica Chips rider, ahead of Barbero of Lamprey. And behind, the 7 men didn't quite close it down. Just 30 seconds gap then, as Bortolami got away from the chasers, taking 3rd spot. And just 7 seconds behind, you can see in distance then, was going to be the 4th place man overall, Pinotti, coming in. Looking back then at the sprint, and a victory going to Amica Chips rider. So up on the rostrum, even off the winner, Barbero in 2nd spot, back there in 3rd, Bortolami. So that was the Tour of Tuscany. These 2 riders have led all the way through. Finally then a victory to Ivanov. Now an aerial view of the big race, Henniger Turn. They're looking at Frankfurt, and the big team on everybody's lips then, the team from Telecom. Very much on home soil. How could they perform today? Setting off on the Grand Prix of Frankfurt, a race which is always held, by the way, on the 1st of May. It's, in my opinion, a race that should qualify for one of the World Cup rounds, but unfortunately, because they can't fix it to happen on a weekend, like a Saturday or Sunday, which the UCI demand, the Henniger Turn race has now been relegated out of the top of the classics and has now been demoted to be something which is always held on May the 1st, which, as you know, back in Great Britain is a big bank holiday in Europe. It gives an opportunity of closing down the roads and running this race over some very interesting countryside, through the Black Forest, back in to Frankfurt, and the big loop round the Henniger Turm, the brewery which sponsored this big race then. Early attempt by Jürgen Wehner of the Nuremberg team to get away, didn't quite work, and then Heppner and Kai Huntermark from Deutsche Telekom with Tassato from Fassa Bartola began to force the pace. Massive crowd turned out, by the way, because the sport of cycling now growing very much in Germany. There, Veronk beginning to put himself at the front, and there on your screen there is the man leading in the World Cup at the moment, Eric Zabel, riding here for his teammates. And he had 2 down the road, so there's no reason that he was going to try and pull back the 2 here. Heppner and Kai Huntermark, together with Tassato of Fassa Bartola. Gorgeous day, sun shining, but you can see here a lot of traffic problems, and in fact they had a few problems with the police who misrouted them too. This is one of the problems in running a bike race through a big town, but even on a bank holiday Monday they had problems, as you can see coming on the screen. There they're putting the red flag out, they're going off course, and fortunately with Heppner and Huntermark, particularly Huntermark being local riders, they knew how to come back onto the main course. They managed to stay away, and off they went. Amazing then, with 20 kilometres to go, and They survived though, they stayed away, and coming in with 5 kilometres to go, and Huntermark then took an advantage, got over the line then in first spot, just coming through. Huntermark beginning to prize himself off the front. And enormous cheers from the German crowd to see the pink and white of Telecom. An amazing performance by this rider too. He's not had any great success over his career. He's been very much a domestic, riding for the rest of the team. And look at him trying here, betting himself, coming in, and he takes it. Huntermark, that's it. A brilliant ride by this man. But some 30 years of age now then, and Hepner then coming into second spot behind him. Well, his great-grandfather was an ancient champion of Germany way back in 1925, and there was a big problem some years ago when his mother and father came out to see him in a race, had a nasty crash, and that was it. Now he's come on then, after all these terrible things over the years, and Kai Huntermark now in front of like 2 million spectators, wins and gets one of his best successes of his career. This is what bike racing is all about, isn't it? Got it! So for a man who's been a domestic for so long, for so many of the Telecom teams, the moment, that great joy to win the Grand Prix of Frankfurt, a superb and brilliant performance, Kai Huntermark. Well, coming up now is this amazing event, the Amsterdam Rai-Derny race. And on your screens here, you can see these riders who are now going to be covering 135 kilometres behind the little motors. And also looking too at the Climbers Trophy. And we're going to look too at the Tour Romandie. Plenty of action then coming up on Eurosport. Stay with us as we look back at what's happened so far. Well, this, as I say, is something different. And for those of you who've not seen any ice before, let me explain that the chaps at the back on the motorbikes aren't going to try and race against the fellows on the bikes up the front. They're actually going to come through and pick them up and cover 135 kilometres of this Amsterdam Derny race. Anxious moment to rise at the start of this particular event, because here we're looking at the world champion. I suggest probably this is going to be the first time he's ever ridden behind the little motors, other than out training, of course, because many of the riders often use little mopeds or scooters for training to increase their speed, but to actually do it in competition is something which doesn't happen very often. This is a relic. I shouldn't use the word, I suppose. My Dutch friends might give me a sharp clout across the ear hole, because when I say a relic of the past, Derny racing had gone into a bit of a decline. See the chaps at the back there? Now all these fellows on the bikes are ex-bike riders, or majority ex-bike riders, and there they picked up the pace now, as you can see, and they all, by the way, only allowed to wear a certain amount of clothing. Can you imagine one of these chaps putting on a jersey and about 10 layers of an anorak underneath him to give more shelter? And that's what they have to do to get behind, also get in front of the rider. The chap then nips him behind. This is a Ballerini at the moment, getting in behind the motor and just sitting in there. Very experienced competitor, bouncing along here. They rely very much, the bike riders, on the chap. Now this fellow with the big moustache, by the way, he is the father of Leontien van Moorsel, and he's a very great pacer indeed, and he's now beginning to move through with the lads right behind him. Very experienced bloke. Most of the time he will be seen on the arcs, but you can see now suddenly Ballerini's blown. Now that's the danger. Can he get back in again? If the man on the front with the little engine goes a bit too quick and the gap opens up, you've got to get back there again, but he's managed to close that gap down. And again, Den Bakker, and then closing up there. See how the Derny pace rider sticks his knees out, maximum shoulder he can do, as now he's trying to get his elbows out. This is superb. I love this sort of thing. And suddenly there, one of the riders, they're looking back now, they're beginning to lose their pacers. There are one or two spare Dernys going round, by the way. They're now dropping the spare Dernys in as well, in case one of the riders managed to have a problem with the Derny. The Derny is about a 50cc motor, and they pedal it. Those little short cranks they've got, they're only about 5-inch cranks. They can actually increase the speed of the bike, and they think they're only turning it slow. They are helping the thing go through, and that's what the Derny place here. They're on the leaders, looking back here to pick up in case somebody had a problem. And Bogart, Hoffman, Claven, Van Petegem, all still in the frame at the moment. There's a wearing down process. Look at the slipstreaming going on here. And the early leader, Ballerini, dropping back now to about 7th off the front as Bogart starts to put the pressure on here. Right up against the back mudguard, getting the maximum shoulder he can do. And look at his pace here. This is one of the most experienced pacers in the six-day racing. On the front, look, he's shouting his man on, come on, come on. He's trying to urge him on. Just to stay there, come on, stay on. He has to be very careful. Now look at it, he says, get out with the motorbikes as well. Hey, this is brilliant. Bombing round here. And the harmony between the pacemaker and the rider behind, this is something else. Absolutely superb. There's been one in France around the Longchamp circuit where a lot of riders go training over about a 3-kilometre circuit there over the years. And I think the bold Tom Simpson did rather well in it a few years ago. Alcatel used to ride it, but here in Amsterdam they're continuing the tradition, and somehow I'd love to import this and slap it straight in the middle of Birmingham or Sheffield or maybe Manchester where it's flat or something, because the noise, the excitement and the speed of these riders. Look at him, he concentrates there, Bogart on that back wheel, staying as close as he can do. Van Petegem closing up behind him. Knaven just behind too as well. So this is going to be a very interesting run into all of it. They've managed now to get away, the top three. They're getting clear of the tracers. In there too, Tristan Hoff at the moment, Martin Den Bakker, Ballerini, they're all still in with a shout. Coming in toward the finish, who's going to get this one? Through the phalanx of leading vehicles, the sprint is starting, and Bogart tries to go for it, but on the left-hand side he gets it. Van Petegem just goes ahead of Bogart, so just there with Petegem popped out. Bogart, third was Tristan Hoffman, fourth Martin Den Bakker, fifth Service Knaven, and in sixth spot, the man who was leading so much at the early part, Franco Ballerini, just faded towards the end. But look at the pain over his face. That really took some stuffing at him. This is some race. So Van Petegem goes up there to receive the awards, and Farm Freaks, another great job indeed. Good to see up there too the memory card Jack and Jones rider on the right hand side, Tristan Hoffman, and Martin Den Bakker for Rabobank. Well, this just says something about this all-round ability of these riders, because, as you know, Van Petegem, best known maybe for the single-day classics, just showing behind the motors. He timed it to perfection to win the Amsterdam Ray Derny race. And again, as we say, for something different. I'm not certain how long it is since we showed women's cycle racing on Eurosport, except going back to the World Championships. And now I'm very pleased here that we're bringing you the Trophée de Grimper, the big race in France. This is preceding the men's event, which we're also going to show you in just a moment on Eurosport. This is Jenny Longo, the effervescent, evergreen, all singing, dancing Jenny Longo, who went off on her own, which is pretty standard tactics as far as she's concerned. To try and go away. She's chased down then by Marilyn Salvetat, and the thing was, could she pull her back before they came in toward the finish? This race, the men were going to do 17 laps of the circuit with a thumping great conk towards the end, and the question was, could Jenny Longo, superb time trials, world champion, multi-world champion, not only is she a good all-round bike ride on the road, but she's a very good time trialist too, and the big chase was coming up from behind. This is fair tactics, by the way that she'll be riding on this particular course, to expect Jenny to go out and do just that, because when it came to the climb, as she now got sucked back into the main pack, it meant that perhaps one or two of the specialist climbers might show their performance and get away. So the main group then, Edita Pukinsati, number 78, number 4, Juliette van der Kove. They started to come up this final climb. Bruno was in there, Dubois, Magali Lafloche, Lovengoth, Dalmay, and over the line then, just popped through there. Pukinsati just managed to get over the line, and my goodness, that was close. But look at the rest of them coming up here now, much bedraggled. But nevertheless, a very close finish, I think, for the number of riders who actually made it. Reminded me of the Muir Hui when we had the women's flesh salon, and there the world champion then, Pukinsati, got that success in the climbing trophy. So after the roads have been warmed up by the women riding round the course, then on for the Trophée de Grimper for the men. And they just started out there. The red flag is being held by Eric Boyer, who's worked for us on Eurosport in the past, the race director. And also in there is the famous rider, Gilbert Duco Lassalle. So the first attack of the day, Moreau here for the Festina team, number 27 away. He actually is coming back after a nasty accident when he cracked his collarbone. early on this season in the Étoile de Bessage. He's ridden a couple of times since then, but been really rather spirited. You can see him on the right-hand side here, the Bonjour rider left, and the De La Tour team putting in some other riders too. So 11 laps to go, and we've got a leading group now just prizing themselves off the front. Guibert, Debian, Oriol, and Felix Garcia Casas are beginning now to form at the front of the pack. What an interesting ride by Pedersen, by the way, Jorgen Bo Pedersen. He's been mainly known as a mountain bike rider. He's some 30 years of age and is now moving into the thinner two-wheel side of the sport, and certainly showing a good pair of wheels early on. But you can see the big bunch now begin to move through. Look at this, isn't that beautiful? Listen to it. So finally the elastic broke. The little group that I said were just beginning to get off the front then, as Pedersen now being sucked back in with Guibert, Debian, Oriol and Garcia Casas over the top of that climb. Oops, problem at the back then, and that's Stefan Huller's gone down, and he's not going to go on, but they say it's not too serious. We understand he's bashed his knee. A bit of a problem there, a man past champion of France, who had the yellow jersey on his shoulders in the Tour de France a couple of years ago, and his knee packed up as well too. He's out then. So there we go, the ambulance taking away Stefan Hullo, and let's hope he makes a speedy recovery. Disappointment then for his team, La Française des Jeux, and in particular Marc Madio, the team director. Back again out with that little group, and prizing himself off the front then, Jorgen Bo Pedersen, beginning really to make impressions or trying to get away on his own, and the chasers, a little bit of gaps opened up, so he's been very spirited all the way through. And I think at this particular stage of the race, a lot of the big guns back in the main pack weren't quite certain what to make of him. Could he stay away? Could they pull him back? Almost as ever wearing the obligatory bandana around the hat. This is something that Pantani started in cycle racing and then taken over by Brochard and the rest of them. It seems to become sort of the uniform of bike racers now. And by the way, talk about Pantani, the news we have at the moment is that he's not going to start in the Tour of Italy, which we'll be covering for you live on Eurosport next week. And so great disappointment for the fans following that man. But I wonder, in fact, when he comes back, if he's going to be very spirited for the Tour de France. We'll have to wait and see how he makes out there. So this is the chase group at the moment. Pedersen's the man they've got to pull back. And suddenly the De La Tour riders start to begin to make a progress on this one, because Patrice Halgan for Jean De La Tour is in this little group there, and Christophe Moreau also went. So suddenly off he goes, Halgan, catching him all napping. The confidence rider there, Moncoute, just leading the chase group here, getting no help at all on the chase. And lies ahead of these riders. They're coming through. We're going to have this this nasty climb. You can see the gap on your screen at the moment. Pedersen hanging on there, but he's being chased down now. Hagland, Moncoute, 43 seconds back. 1 minute still for the leader. Fortunately, by the way, this is a gorgeous day for bike racing. You can see, if you look at the distance there, the trees are hardly moving, not much wind, and so one lone rider's got the guts to have a go over this very tough course. I say 17 laps with this stinking climb to come up every lap. Not in any way affected by the wind, but the chase group coming up here determined to pull him back. So for Jorgen Bo Pedersen, looks like it might be over and done with. Well, coming back in towards the finish, the groups then had reformed and they started to wind it up towards the finish. And so Christophe Moreau on the left-hand side of the screen, and in the centre in the pink and the white, Patrice Halgan begin to force the pace and get away. The poor rider from Denmark. Now back out there, and hold on that it comes across the line into first spot after the 133.9 kilometres race, averaging 42.8 kilometres now. In second spot, Moreau from Festina, recovering from that cracked collarbone. And that good little climber, Beneteau from Bonjour, who did a superb ride in the Tour of Langkawi. Remember seeing him going up the climb there. He finished third in the end, Moncuti fourth, and Gluto back into fifth spot. And Pedersen finally got a sixth spot in the race then. So there we are. Good success then for De La Tour. The team here, sponsors are Patrick Haller, looking for a wildcard place in the Tour de France. This will certainly help them. Well, let's have a look now at the next event coming up on your screen. Those who are watching our live programme in this afternoon, Wednesday. We're going to look back then at the previous Tour of Romandie, 1999, when Jalabert took the stage Moitié to Molson-sur-Grève. He'd taken the prologue time trial to start the race off, and there he is in the green jersey. So Jalabert again, another victory. What a tremendous ride it's been, by the way, also, because in the Tour of Mediterranean this year, we're looking at this year's race for the year 2000, the Mediterranean Tour. Jalabert came through again. He rode these short sort of stages. He's tremendous. That shows why he's the world's #1. And again now, looking on at the Catalunya week, the time trial, this went up the Montjuïc, a nasty little climb in Barcelona. And guess who won this one as well? Yes, Jalabert. I know back in Great Britain there's a tremendous number of Jalabert fans. I'll be pleased to see their man here on the screen. There he is then in that time trial. And now we're looking at the Blaise Bastogne-Liège. You may remember coming in toward the back end here, he's beginning to shake his head, Jalabert. Up in front is his teammate, Echeverria. The thing is, could he chase it down? He decided not to. And suddenly out of the pack popped to Bettini to get a superb victory. But Jalabert back there, what was it, I think fifth spot at the end of it all then. So now let's look then at the Tour of Romandie. The prologue in 98. Duffield got the victory that occasion. And then moving on to the next stage of the race, but Duffield came across the line, having got the green jersey in the time trial, to get victory there as well. And again, looking back to 1998, Duffield came through to win the fourth stage. Duffield then a man to watch in the Tour of Romandie coming up. But let's look back now at what happened in the Amstel Gold race. Duffield again here in the red jersey. Didn't quite come through. He was in that breakaway group, but in the end, the sprinters took over and Zabel got the victory. But then what happened in the Blaise Bastogne-Liège? Oscar Camas in as he comes across the line here. Another man who beat showing well in the Tour of Romandie, just faded at the end of it all. But now at the Flèche Wallonne, Francesco Casagrande showed his ability to climb. There's some thumping great climbs coming up in the Tour of Romandie this year. What can he do? Can he repeat this performance in the Flèche Wallonne? Casagrande taking it in front of an enthusiastic crowd, particularly because they got a second place Manets coming through. Looking back to the Tour of Italy in 99, this is Salvadelli going and attacking now, and he rode on then to finish in second spot overall in the Tour of Italy. The Tour this year will be without Marco Pantani. We saw a quick look of him in the pink jersey, but he was of course thrown off the race with just 1 day to go when they found his blood count was above the 50% level. So De Luca coming into winning at Trapagaran, not riding in the Tour of Romandie this year, but a man we might find well in the Tour of Italy coming up on Eurosport. Well, that's him then, taking that one, but I say we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now let's look back to 1995. Co-commentator on that German channel, not with us today, by the way, Tony Rominger, taking the prologue and the time trial and the green jersey. Then, not only that, would he go on to take the pink jersey in the Tour of Italy. Very few riders, including him and Stephen Roche, have done that.